I appreciate everyone coming out to hear me speak. I know I'm what's keeping you from dinner and from a really nice night, so we're going to try and keep this short and sweet, but hopefully worth your time at the same time. So I'm Chandler Alfin, lead security engineer at Adobe, and really excited to be here. So I attended HashiConf last year, and it was a really good experience. I was actually the only one from my team, and we were taking a look at Vault and wanted to evaluate Vault and see if it was something good for us. And I got a lot of feedback of, well, you're from Adobe. That's a large corporation. Why are you here? This is more open source. This is for companies that can be more agile and don't have your legacy crap that you have to deal with. And I think to some point they were right. Like, it was a big lift to try and get Vault in the door initially. But fast forward a year, and it's fun to be able to come, present, and also recognize all the huge companies that are here doing the exact same thing and talk to them and hear their use case. So really excited to present today. And more than anything, I just want my talk to be more of like a story, kind of our experiences of where we were, why we were looking at Vault, what was the decisions that were made, plans for the future. You know, we're obviously, you never achieve security, so we're always moving in that direction. I want to explain a little bit of the architecture. We're not going to get way technical in this talk, so if that's what you came looking for, don't leave. Please stay after and talk to me, but I just don't want to dive into that right now in the talk. And then, of course, I don't want to be the guy that gets up and just talks slides with no demo. So we'll have a short demo at the end. But yeah, looking forward to going through this. So before I dive into like Vault and how we're using it and that, I wanted to talk to who Adobe is. And this maybe sounds a little weird to people to try and explain what Adobe is. But I had a question from a guy in my community like a couple weeks ago, and he said, look, don't take this wrong, but I know you work at Adobe and you have a huge office in Lehi in Utah, where I'm from, and you have a huge office in San Jose, and it's all over, you know, the country. Like, what do you guys do all day? Because PDF hasn't changed much. Like, seriously, Photoshop, like, I don't get it. And so he was a very non-technical guy, but in case you're wondering, this is what we do all day. We are a company of acquisitions. So our product has come a long way from PDF to we're now, and I've heard you've heard about Adobe moving to the cloud. We have an Adobe Creative Cloud for all of you creative geniuses out there, Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that. The Document Cloud being used across many large organizations for business transactions and that. And we have the Experience Cloud, which is a little less known, but my Dan McTeer on my team spoke to that, of kind of what we do in the keynote, you know, trillions of transactions a year, Black Friday marketing and at Target advertising and all of that. So needless to say, we're on a very large scale. I joined Adobe a year and a half ago, and I wasn't even really in the know of what the Experience Cloud did and how large a scale we were talking about when we talked about Adobe digital marketing or Adobe Experience Cloud. A lot of the companies that are here today that I've talked to are our customers and are using this platform, and it's good to talk to you. So that's what we were working on. I mentioned I started a year and a half ago, and the day that the first project that I was given as I started was, hey, we need you to architect our secret management solution. And it's not that we don't have a secret management solution, it's that we have 10 secret management solutions. There's tons of teams that are out there, and they're trying to be innovative, and they're trying to get their code into production as fast as possible, and they're creating all these different ways to secure their passwords. We were lacking a company-wide solution, and that was an issue for a lot of different reasons, things like secret sprawl, centralized auditing, lots of issues with password rotations and everything like that. So I want to speak a little bit to the challenges that we were facing, and the biggest one, again, it wasn't that Adobe was just being insecure and not having a password manager. It was we had a lot of different options. The second was we needed something that could tackle this secure introduction problem, the chicken and egg issue that all of us, I think, when we talk about centralized secret management, we have to address that, and sometimes it's a hard question from engineers of great, like, you can store my secrets somewhere, but then how am I accessing them? And doing that as in the concept of microservices, and as Adobe's moving a lot of their products over to this microservices pipelining workflow. And the third one, large scale, distributed, multi-cloud. I've talked a little bit to that. I put this bullet point on this slide of challenges we are facing, but it's hard to look at it as a challenge, right? Large scale, that's what pays my salary, so it's great. We're doing well. Distributed, multi-cloud environment. I love working at Adobe because I feel like we're very innovative. The conversation that I have last HashiConf with a lot of the newer startups, I honestly, truthfully felt like I was in that same situation of, hey, I can get these tools into Adobe, and my manager sending me here to look at new technologies. But anytime you're looking at multi-cloud and being innovative, that comes with a whole set of security issues and risks that have to be addressed. And that's kind of what was given to me as something to architect. So here I am, a year and a half ago, and looking at architecting our secret management solution. I'm super excited. I'm the new guy, thinking, okay, I'm going to be all of these engineers' best friends. They're going to love me. Like, I'm going to take all of these issues that they've been dealing with security and solve them for them. And as I approached a lot of the teams and told them of our goal, our vision, and got their reaction, this is what I saw. And it kind of I was taken back a little bit, like, hey, I'm just here to help you, right? I'm on a team that we're looking across all of Adobe, and we feel like secret management is something that we can help our engineers to solve. Where's the disconnect, I guess? Why are there's some negative reactions here? So I thought a lot about this, and honestly, as I was collecting all of the challenges and things that we need to address with our solution, a word kept coming up. And every time I talk to an engineer, it's this S word, and it's kind of this negative word to them, and they're thinking a lot about, great, here comes core solutions, and they're telling me, and they think they know better, and there's this new guy, and that S word is standards. And here we're looking at this as, hey, standards are great, right? We can get everyone standardized, so we have centralized auditing. We have a way to actually have insight into what's going on in our architecture. The engineers, yes, they love standards, but they were looking at it in a whole different way. Of security standards wasn't a positive to them in a lot of different ways, and one of those was it always seemed like we were just chasing this moving target. Great, we're going to roll out a new secret management solution, and the solution that you give me today isn't going to work for the stuff that I do tomorrow. And so I'm going to be refactoring my code, developing, coding against a whole new API just so I can secure my secrets. Actually, the month that I started at Adobe and was given my brand new project that I'm all excited about, we were rolling out a secret management solution at that very time and telling people, hey, let's move to this new product, this new thing. Really excited about it, and kind of behind the scenes, let's plan phase 2 of this because it's not going to scale to what we need it to be, and being as transparent as we possibly could in that situation, but we had gotten to a point and we needed something different. So the engineers looked at it as, hey, you're just chasing a moving target. Like, you're not really helping me in anything. The second big thing was this chicken and egg issue. Okay, so I'm willing to refactor my code and call into your API to grab my secrets, and you can store my secrets, fine. But what are you giving me back? An API token. So now I have my secret to get my secrets. Okay, so I need to encrypt this API token and throw it on my box. So now I have an encryption key to get my secret to get my secrets. Like, you're not solving anything for me. You're literally just sticking this box over me and saying, you have to act in this box. You have to use a secret management solution, and you're going to be more secure. But am I really more secure? I'm literally hiding under something that's not securing me in any way. It's just adding more obscurity to the path to get my secrets. So I think these were all valid concerns that needed to be addressed, and at first were kind of difficult conversations. So we took this to kind of our team that we had developed and met with a bunch of engineers and started looking at all the different solutions that were out there. um, and started kind of doing proof of concepts and building out different architectures and evaluating a bunch of different systems. And one thing that was kind of interesting, that in the same breath that some of these very negative engineers were saying, I will not use your centralized secret management for all of these reasons. I'm secure. I'm doing it in a secure way. I'm going to keep doing it my way. Oh, but have you looked at Vault? I'm really interested in using Vault. We are actually going to stand up our own cluster of Vault. So if you're willing to do that for us, like, we'd probably use your service. And that was something interesting for our team. We heard that a couple of times and thought, okay, there's something here, right? We need to take a look at Vault open source and just do a full evaluation of it. So I'm going to kind of fast forward the story a little bit. We did a lot of evaluation, a lot of testing, and head and shoulders above every other company that we looked at and every other product, Vault was the clear-cut winner for a lot of different reasons. Dan McTeer in the keynote spoke to an easy-to-use REST API, and I'm guessing that at least some of you had in your mind, why does he keep talking about a REST API? Isn't that table stakes? Isn't that something that just every product should have? For us, that was a really key part of Vault, is how flexible it was for our engineers to call into Vault and retrieve their secrets. It wasn't, here's your box, you have to consume it in this way, and you have to use Chef, or you have to use Puppet, you have to do it in this way. We can develop different mechanisms with all of the acquisitions that come into Adobe, that when they come with some unicorn configuration management system, we can say, okay, like, here's the API, let's start developing a process for you to still have your secrets within Vault so that we have insight to what's going on in the security world. So that was a big deal for us. Highly available, that's given. Now I'm talking about Vault open source, so when I say highly available, I'm talking within the region. You know, that we were able to have 5 nodes, and they were hot standby, and if one blew away, it would just fail over, and that was a big deal for us. ACL policies, TTL, I think anyone who's familiar with Vault, that's a big feature in just being able to like really fine-grained access in that approach. And I just want to throw out there the announcement about Sentinel. Super cool, super fun. That's something we're really excited about. I was just talking with Jeff from HashiCorp about this. If you're interested in that at all, I would go to his talk tomorrow. He kind of opened my eyes a little bit about what's coming down the lines with Vault. Just want to put that out there. So robust authentication, LDAP, that was something that we use. GitHub, just being able to authenticate in a lot of different ways. Dynamic secret generation, that's something that like engineers come and they're like, oh, we got to have this. This is awesome. And then they're a little bit slower to adopt and move over to that and move away from their long-lived secrets. But we're moving in that direction, and then centralized auditing. So we were really excited about this, about Vault, and we thought, okay, engineers are asking for it. It passed all of our evaluations, and it's obviously the solution that we want to go forward with. So how do we get it in the door? Adobe's already invested heavily in security and in secret management, and investing in yet, we had the engineers to a point sold on Vault. Now it was getting it in the door at Adobe with upper management. So we thought, well, first thing, let's just go open source. We won't pay for it. Let's just see. Let's have the engineers put their money where their mouth is and see if they'll actually use it. So we stood up a beta environment, and we put all over the wiki page, beta. This is beta. It's highly available. It's set up to all the best practices of HashiCorp. It's secure, and we feel very comfortable about it. But it's not replicated. We're not backing up the data. We want you to play around with the API. We had a huge adoption. 15, 20 teams immediately went to Vault and started onboarding and getting their secrets there. And we saw the numbers go up. And so we're like, okay, this is a really good proof of concept. This is something that we probably want to centralize on. And we need to figure out how to productionize this, or how it's going to work on Adobe scale, not so much Vault open source. There was a lot of fallbacks to using open source, and without fail, of course, the engineers that we just told this is beta, just so you know, like, don't take this jumping into production without talking to us. Of course, we find out that 2 or 3 of them, through word of mouth, they're in production with their secrets, and they're calling from across the world to our single vault cluster, and from APAC to US West, and they're calling me and saying, "Hey, why is it so slow? What's this latency?" Well, you're calling into a cluster across the world, so we had to do something about it fast. So first thing that we thought of is how to productionize this is the unseal keys. We needed something somewhere to stick them. We wanted an automated approach to unseal our vault. We didn't want to be woken up at 2 in the morning. Because of some of our compliance standards and regulations, these had to be very, very secure. So we knew we needed to get them in an HSM, and we needed to have some type of automation to unseal Vault. Now, we weren't looking at this as we need to go with Vault Enterprise at this point. We are looking at what's it going to take for us to use it. So whether we build in the integrations or whether we go with something that HashiCorp puts out, what's it going to take? So the next thing was disaster recovery. Obviously, we can't just have all of our secrets in one location, and if something happens, we lose everything. So we needed some way to replicate our secrets over to another site, and if our vault went down, we could just fail over with DNS, and everything was pretty. So we looked at console replicate and some of these ad hoc ways to fitting that together, and some of them are very valid solutions. And I'm guessing that some of them are in production for you today, and we really went down that path. But for us, it was on the Adobe scale, like that was a difficult one for us to solve without some native disaster recovery. The next one was a big one. We're multi-cloud, and Adobe's very invested in being multi-cloud. It's not something that we're backing away from. We've invested a lot of time and a lot of money to make sure that we're diverse in where we put our services. So we have Azure, we have AWS, and we can't expect that all these clouds are calling into one centralized instance. So really, we need a lot of Vault clusters. I put 4 on this slide because we are geographically located in 4 distinct regions throughout the world. We have a ton more, but we have like our champion sites that we put all of our core services, and anyone that needs to call into those can utilize the service from there. So we needed several clusters, but these couldn't just be single clusters because we can't expect our engineers to write secrets in Azure and then write them in AWS. But okay, that's only US West, so now we need to write the US East. We needed some type of replication, is what it came down to. It had to be replicated at least within the cloud, so I could write a secret on US West in Azure, and it would show up in my APAC region in Azure. And we kind of played around with that workflow, thinking, okay, we'll have maybe 3 distinct environments, but that didn't really make sense. And ultimately, we came to the approach of we need a globally replicated vault. We need to write secrets to our primary and know that they exist in Azure, AWS, and our private cloud in every single region. And we're not making our engineers do wonky things to get their secrets out and do some scripting method to replicate all their secrets out to all these clusters because we weren't willing to invest the time and money into replication. So these were some of the things that led us. Now this is a very high-level architecture. There's a whole lot more that goes in, more disaster recovery sites and the networking and everything. But this is kind of basics of what we wanted, I guess, and what it would take for us to productionize Vault. So that's what led us to Vault Enterprise, and we initially went down the path of, well, it's Vault open source, and we're engineers, and we like to code, so maybe we'll build this in ourselves. Maybe we'll build in replication, and we'll build in this HSM support. And we went down that path of architecting it and building out kind of what we thought would be a good way to replicate and having kind of our own branch of Vault. And we got to a point that we really had to commit, and that's around the time that HashiCorp came out with their Vault Enterprise and their replication and everything that came with that, this HSM, and we did a direct comparison, and we ultimately made the decision and could see that, we'll continue to develop Photoshop and the products that make us money, but we want to pay someone that's gonna tackle these security, because there's a lot of issues that you start running into when you start and develop these things outside of Vault and replicate and pull it out of the core barrier of Vault and try and replicate to another site. I didn't want to be that engineer on the news that, yeah, we were using Vault open source, and then some dumb engineer decided to replicate over Kafka, and it got exposed, and all Adobe secrets are on the web now. HSM support, multi-factor identity was an interesting one. This was something that Enterprise solved for us that we didn't really even know. We were authenticating with LDAP with a lot of different authentication mechanisms, and they came out with this identity approach. And I went to some of our engineering teams and kind of explained it to them, and they're like, wow, yeah, that's something we needed and didn't really even know. And again, with the release of Sentinel, I think that's even multiplied times 10 of what we could potentially do with that. And the last thing that was kind of a big deal for us is standardizing on one Vault solution across all of Adobe. We wanted enterprise support, and I want to do just a call out to any support HashiCorp people in the room. Like, you're killing it, and we get such great response from you guys, and really appreciate that. So that was it. That's kind of the story of, we ended up purchasing Vault Enterprise. We've rolled out with a similar architecture that I showed. We're in lots of geographic regions. I get it that I did not go very technical in how we were doing that. But if you have questions, please come talk to me, because I think a lot of us in this room are trying to solve that same issue, and we have a baby architecture at this point. We're really excited about where we're at, but we're continually onboarding teams and learning new things, and I'd love to kind of have those conversations. But I took kind of this question to our engineers and said, hey, I'm presenting at HashiConf. We're doing a lot of cool things with Vault. Like, what should I show off? What would be really cool? And I got a lot of shrugs of, well, I mean, like, yeah, we're doing cool things, but really we're just leveraging Vault. We're just using Vault as a back end. We're dynamically creating secrets, or we're rotating our root password on a daily basis because Vault enables us to do that. And it's nothing like mind-blowing that I could show in this demo. So I ended up just going with what's kind of the furthest along for us, and something that we're pretty excited about is our pipelining workflow, and kind of shows off the scope of Adobe, the multi-cloud aspect, and being able to securely introduce secrets from your code, getting them out of code and getting them into a containerized workflow, and leveraging Vault to do that. So anytime you show off like your pipeline workflow, your CI/CD, so we call this whole product ethos at Adobe, and it's actually something that it's been talked about for a long time that we might potentially open source, and I would really love for that to happen. So maybe someday we'll see that. But I sat down and started to do like the architectural diagram, which you do whenever you talk about how you're doing your pipeline service, and it just always to me it always ends up like super ugly and just a bunch of arrows and pointers, and we're doing this and doing that, and it's hard to fully grasp unless you are able to really look at it for a long time. So I just threw up the current tools that we're using, and I was even hesitant to do that. Because I don't want to put these up as like I'm backing all these tools and I made all the decisions to go with Mesos Marathon. No, I didn't do that. I'm not saying that Artifactory and DCOS is the way to go. I love the announcement about the Kubernetes stuff, and really excited to go play around with that. We've built our pipeline workflow and abstracted it away from our engineers, so it really doesn't matter about the engine that we have underneath. We don't really care that it's Mesos Marathon, so I don't want to speak to that too much, because you can debate this for forever of what's the right technology to use. What I want to kind of just show off is Vault, where we're storing our secrets, and how easy it is to dynamically create secrets for a database, and Aqua, that we're leveraging for secure introduction. So Liz from Aqua did an awesome talk. Oh, there she is. Did an awesome talk on Aqua security and injecting your secrets from Vault, native integration that they have into the container, and that's what I'll be leveraging today. So I'm not going to go way in depth on the Aqua UI and all of that. She already did that. If you missed her talk, go watch it. They're going to be showing these later, and it was super interesting. So that's what I'll be demoing. Let's see. Okay, and beforehand, because I didn't want to be just setting this all up right in front of everyone and wasting everyone's time. So I set up Vault with something, hopefully. Okay, that's big enough. So with what I'm going to be using. So Vault, I wrote an application calling out to MariaDB, and it's reading. It's reading a table, something super basic. So I set up a connection in Vault, and obviously you would never do this with a production config where you'd run this command and then print it to the screen, because right there's my credentials that I'm passing to Vault, and I'm saying, okay, Vault's going to be the broker to create these accounts for me in my MariaDB database. So I gave it the allowed role, so you can create one user, and this user is going to be able to read from MariaDB. So that's what I create here, a role that it's going to create a user that can read anything from MariaDB, the MariaDB database. Obviously, in production, you're going to lock that, and these roles are going to be a lot more fine-grained, but for this demo, it's not. Now, what I want to call out, though, is in the default TTL, I have this user set to 15 seconds, and that's because I didn't want to be waiting up here forever for it to revoke. But so every 15 seconds after that's created, Vault's going to expect my application to check back in and say, hey, I'm still alive, I'm still here, don't revoke my credentials. And that can happen for up to 24 hours is what I set. And then I just needed a way to create an API token that could do all of that for me. So I have a MariaDB read policy, and that policy is to create credentials for read-only, and then has the ability to renew itself when it needs to. So very super basic. I actually took a lot of this just straight from the docs in Vault because it accomplished what I needed it to do. Yeah, so not much there. So let me jump over to, let's see, hopefully, okay. Let's make that bigger. Okay, is that going to work for everyone? Hopefully. Can everyone see that in the back? Am I good? Yeah? Bad? Good? Okay. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, oh, it looks like I lost connection, so I'll have to log in a couple times. But I'm going to create an API token. I've got an application, so I'm putting myself in the shoes of my engineers and what the flow is for them. So I've created an application, and I need to get secrets to that application. So I'm going to write and create a token that I can distribute out to my application. In production, there's ways of wrapping this token and securely introducing it to Aqua and doing all that. I'm not going to show that, but here's a basic API token, and I need a way to get it to my application. So what I'm going to do is take this, go through the history. I'm going to go ahead and just write that back to Vault. So I want to stick it at a path that my container or my application can just know. As long as I call that path, I'm going to get it back. So there's kind of a lot going on in this command, and I'll explain the path in a second. It's a little bit long, but then I've got this value, this API token that I'm going to write, and I've got this Aqua label. This Aqua label is actually it's part of a release candidate. It's not an official release yet of Aqua, but they did a cut for me because I wanted to demonstrate it. What this is doing is I have this HashiCorp demo image application, and I've onboarded that to our Ethos workflow, and it's gone through the whole Jenkins pipeline workflow down through Mesos Marathon, and as it did that, it kicked me back this ID. It says, okay, this application or this image has this ID. Write this to Vault, and that's what's going to tell Aqua that it has access to this secret. So that's just kind of specific to Aqua, part of the integration. So I write that back, and as I do this, I just wrote it to my dev instance. This is well, not currently because this is just a demo, but in production as the engineer, I'm writing it. It's replicating across all geographic locations, and it's available in my AWS and Azure. I don't have to really worry about that secret. I know it's available now. So now let's look at the actual application. It will probably look familiar. It's just a spec file. It's onboarding. It's something that we've abstracted out, and we've added the stuff that we need at Adobe, and we take those values, and then really we just pass things to Jenkins, and it does its thing. But part of the piece that I wanted to call out is this secrets provider. Yeah, that should be big enough. So I'm calling out, I'm onboarding my app, and here's my image and all of that. Now my secrets, I'm going to tell provider vault. I'm just going to pass in my path. So this path is a simple pointer to where my secrets are located. I don't have to pass anything through Jenkins, Mesos, Marathon. They're never seeing my secrets because I can just specify this here and then not worry about it. And this is across every environment, so I don't really care what I call out here in my environment. Here I'm in Dev and I'm just in US West, but I can, this is a list, so I can tack on as many regions as I want, and I know that this is going to work. And the reason that I'm such a granular path is because as far as authentication is concerned, it needs to be able to authenticate to the correct vault when it's called. So a lot going on here. I'd love to speak about it after if you have any questions, but simply we're passing paths to Jenkins as part of the build process. This is like really stupid fast application that I wrote just to kind of demo what I wanted to do. So it's a Python Flask application. It's just reaching out to MariaDB, grabbing all the data from Adobe Talk, and printing that out to screen. But it's trying to authenticate the part that I want to show off. It's trying to grab its credentials. Where is it getting those credentials? So I have a little function, this create user, that my application, I'm an engineer, I'm looking at the environment. And again, if you missed Liz's talk, go look at it. She went into detail of how Aqua is injecting that into the environment, which I won't touch on now. But all my application is looking at the environment, and it's expecting a secret. It's taking that. It's an API token. I'm calling into Vault, creating my credentials, and then I'm using that to authenticate with my MariaDB database and grab everything that I need. But if you remember, I set that to revoke every 15 seconds. So now I've got to create a way for my application to just recheck in. Now I don't. You could do it in production for every 15 seconds, but probably wouldn't. That's just something to kind of demo what I'm doing. I wrote into just pretty my health check a renew user. So that renew user is using that same API token and grabbing the lease ID from my my account, the account that I created, and it's just saying, hey, I'm here, Vault. I'm still alive, still kicking, so don't revoke my credentials, and I still need them. So simply just calling in and renewing that lease. And then I wrote this endpoint, and all of you are probably looking at me like, why would you expose your environment? I just did that as a way to show that, hey, to kind of demo and show that the environment is there, it's injected, and that it's not wrapped anymore. Okay, so again, we're using DCOS. I have it already onboarded. I went through that whole process already, so it's pushed, it's built. I'm just going to go ahead and scale up one instance, and what's all happening in the background is the container's coming up. It's being deployed down through the whole stack. It's getting to the point where it has this wrapper, this pointer, and Aqua's grabbing that value and it's comparing it, and it's saying, okay, does this container, this image value, does it have access to this secret? And if it has the correct Aqua label that I verified here, then it should, and it's just going to inject that into my environment. My application is then going to grab that secret, reach out to Vault, create its credentials, authenticate with MariaDB, and be off and running. So it looks like it came up. So if I go to my print environment, I can see that I have these two dummy secrets that I specified, and those are just within Vault. But Vault_1, which I'm trying to call, is that same value that I just wrote. So there's my API token that my application can use. Now I should be able to see, hit this read MariaDB, it's reaching out to MariaDB with those same credentials, and it's reading the secrets. Now that health check that I specified that's being called, and it's by default here at Python health. It's being checked every 10 seconds, and so every 10 seconds it's running that function that's reaching out to Vault and saying, hey, still alive, still here, still kicking. So let me log back in really quick. Get this going. Okay, so if I look, I've got one user now in my MariaDB database, and it's not being revoked, right? Because within Vault, it's the application is checking in every 10 seconds and making sure that isn't being revoked. So let's say my really lame application is all of a sudden really popular, and I need to scale that up. What happens to my, let's go a little bit bigger. So what happens to my API token? I don't all of a sudden I don't need multiple API tokens. I'm using that same one, but what I should get is multiple MariaDB accounts that are separated out to all of my different images or my different applications running. So if one is compromised, I can easily revoke that without blowing away my whole application. And so as these come up, it looks like one is up now. I should see these start to populate, hopefully, if it is going to work for me. Oh, still one running. Gotta love live demos. Okay, we'll go with that. So now I have two accounts, and as those come up, we'd end up with 4 or 5 accounts that now I have accounts within MariaDB within the database that are being created. If I were to blow those away, Vault is going to wait for that check-in period, the 15 seconds to expire, and it's going to revoke those secrets away. So I guess coming from an engineer, to me this is really cool. I'm able to give my engineer this platform that's totally abstracted away from the engine or anything that we're using, and they're just able to stick their secrets in Vault, specify in their spec file where they're at, and deploy their application. They can go to AWS and do the same. They don't have to worry about checking in with a Cloud HSM or a secrets provider there. They don't have to go to Azure and look at Azure Key Vault and do all that. It's the same location, whether they're in private cloud or AWS or Azure. And we accomplish a lot on the core services side of things because we can look at things like centralized auditing, consistent policy management, secure introduction, if we're all using this ethos workflow. And then it's all the same. Password sprawl, the ability to have one API token that's generating those accounts, and all of my my database credentials are different, and they're only living for a maximum amount of time. And when I have to rotate something, I'm just rotating that API token is a huge win, and not just a huge win for us, but in the eyes of our engineers. So instead of banging their head against the table of great, here's a new standard that I have to follow, they're pretty excited about moving to Vault and interacting with Vault in this way. And I guess the last call out, just wrapping up, is this was one way that we're using Vault, and it's something that we're developing and changing all the time. There's multiple teams come to us with different use cases all the time, and they're really excited to use Vault, and it's the best feeling for them to come and say, okay, this is our ideal workflow. Can you make this work? And being able to sit down and architect a solution because of how flexible, how fast, and the performance of Vault to just be able to say, yeah, I know, like you want to consume secrets in this way, we can do it for you. So that's my talk. I appreciate you all coming out. And again, any technical questions that you have, please reach out. Thanks.